to the director of engineering. And then there's another standard set that can be sub-delegated, typically down to the chief engineer. We've really opened up what that can be. So we can delegate the standard set. We can also delegate other things if it makes sense for that program. We have always determined whether a project would be reportable, meaning it has to come back through the airworthiness office, or non-reportable because it's maybe a lower risk and it can be done internally. We have also started looking at, well, maybe it's reportable just because one section has a higher risk, or because it's associated with something that we have decided should always be reportable, like aerial refueling, for example. But in some cases, if a project, for example, an aerial refueling, is the type of risk that we've kind of seen now maybe on multiple platforms and we understand it pretty well, we can delegate that back down to the program too. And then finally, on the delegation side, we've really expanded our ability in the Air Force to endorse program office people, and that allows us to distribute the workload as appropriate. So when we have a lot of high-risk projects coming through the airworthiness office, we can distribute some of the lower risk work back to the programs, and that helps us do a better job of aligning the work with the expertise and where the risk is. So we can also split up projects. If a program office doesn't have expertise in a certain area, we can pull that up into the airworthiness office where we do, and then let the program office where they do have expertise manage that. And then the final thing is actually to Mr. Gonzalez's last point is about preparing the workforce to do this. It is a responsibility to take on assessments as an endorsed or a delegated person. And we want to make sure that the workforce that each of our PAEs has, helping them make decisions about what they should and shouldn't do, or how we should distribute the workload. That workforce we need to ensure is competent and confident in their areas. So we are also, as part of airworthiness, but really also mostly as part of engineering, and we have some Tiger Team work that maybe we'll talk about later, to really make sure that we are providing the right training and the depth of expertise to support the programs being able to take on all this work. So a lot happening in the last several years to get ahead of that, to make sure that we are continuing to focus on a risk-based approach and to develop a workforce that is both competent in doing that and confident in their ability to do so. And I'll pause there.
Yeah, no, thanks, Lily. Yeah, so the ATS isn't about, sacrificing speed over safety. It's really about what Lily's talking to, which is re-architecting our processes to be able to do both. And so in the mobility directorate, and specifically I'll use a C-17 example for this one, is we're utilizing this re-architecting of what Lily and her team are doing. And when you think of C-17 and specific to its air med mission, we get a lot of commercial equipment that we're hanging and plugging into and having those medical teams use. And so ultimately those commercial items aren't going to pass our mil spec. And we were, for years, doing these waiver packages, one at a time, up through our team and Lily's team, and a lot of work, inefficient. And so we're now basically setting guardrails, risk-based guardrails with our engineering team in concert with Lily's team on here's what's, we can delegate to your team. And so when we get a new piece of commercial equipment and it fits inside these guardrails, we just press. And so a lot of efficiency there. We're just starting that process, or we're about to get that process approved. So I don't want to get out too far ahead of, Robert David and his team, but that's something we're working on right now. So as part of those re-architected processes. So yeah, thanks.
Competent and confident. I love it.
That's all I got to say.
Wow, that's pretty good. I don't have that much to add either, but I will say that what the Colonel talked about earlier with the B-21 is what I experienced with the C-17, right? He didn't have a PEO with this whole staff of, EN person and FM person and PK person overseeing his tactical work. So if you add layers to a process like we have now, many layers, then you got to see what is the value of each layer, and then you have to empower to keep the people at that layer to only do what adds value to the process, not to review everything that was done before. Back to what Lily's saying, you delegate that to the chief engineer. When I was TAA, I listened to the DOE and the chief engineer more than I listened to my SMEs. They knew the airplane better, and I felt strongly that if they were properly trained, they were going to give me the straight scoop. I didn't need other spy telling me what's right or wrong. So if there was a big debate, and not always was a debate, many times they agreed, I lean on the DOE and the chief engineer because they were closer to the product. So again, if you have all these layers,